Hey, and good afternoon to everybody at the amazing Las Vegas Comic Con. I want to thank you guys for spending your Father's Day with us at Comic Con here in Las Vegas. We really appreciate it, guys. You know what's cool about this event is that it's especially on Sundays. I love it's Family Day, it's Kids Day, and so you see all the different generations of fans out there. Well, the Turtles have had 30 years of a growing fan base. Whether you were like me and are completely old school and hiding my turtles, my oversized turtle books in my math folder, or whether it's like you came in with the cartoons, whether you came in with the toys, any of the different movies, any of the different TV shows, the Turtles have impressed everybody for the last 30 years. So we are lucky that we get to connect the comic books with the comic book creators, the people who inspire pop culture, and that's our Architect of Pop Culture theme. And there's nothing better than introducing the creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But before we do that, I'm going to introduce you to our moderator, Koi Jandaro from Collider.com, the top source in pop culture on the web. You should start following them on social media as well. But here's Koi. Koi, thanks for being with us, bud.
How's it going, guys? How's Sunday? We've all survived some Vegas? All right. Now, this man needs no introduction, but you should also know this man is signing stuff right after this, and he is an awesome dude to talk to. There's signing stuff going on all day over there, but the man himself who invented, I'd say, many of our childhoods, a very specific love of pizza, and combined many things we love into one awesome turtle family. Mr. Kevin Eastman.
You guys are awesome. Thank you very much.
So how many ride or die Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fans we got in the audience? Yeah. Now, it's just when you combine the words Teenage Mutant Ninja and Turtles, it inspires such happiness. And I have to know, I want to go back to the very beginning. Why turtles?
Well, it really started as a joke in that I grew up in a very small town in Maine, and my grandmother lived in this lake. And right on the pond areas around the lake, there was just tons and tons of turtles, and I just loved them. I used to go there and play them like they looked like these dinosaurs from back in the day, hanging out. So I'd hang out with them, and then years later, became a big fan of Bruce Lee, and I thought, like, if Bruce Lee was an animal, what would be the stupidest animal he would be? Fast-moving martial artist, slow-moving turtle. It was a natural joke that made me laugh, made Peter Laird laugh, and so that was where I drew this first drawing. It's on my hat here. The first drawing, Michelangelo was the first turtle ever doodled, and I said, this is going to be the next big thing, ha, ha, ha. And so, Pete did a sketch, changed some things. I, of course, had to one-up him, so I did a sketch in pencil of 4 turtles, each with different weapons, and I had this kind of comic booky logo that says Ninja Turtles. And then when he inked it in, he had a Teenage Mutant to the title, and we looked at it and said, this is the dumbest thing we've ever seen. We've got to come up with a story that tells how these characters got to be the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and that was in 1983.
So dichotomy and irony became like
Totally.
these things, all right, a pairing.
Yes.
Where did the ooze come from? Where did the idea of, like, as that conversation evolved into their origin, which is this rich origin tied to the comics that I like, is it true that Daredevil ties into the Turtles?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
If there's any Marvel lawyers in the house, no, not at all.
Headcanon.
No, the ooze actually evolved from, it's one of those things when you think of most superheroes, certainly in the Marvel universe, even a lot in the DC universe, there was always this, with Hulk, it was radioactivity. With the Fantastic Four, it was gamma rays around a space. With Peter Parker, it was a radioactive spider. So it was all of these mysterious things that sort of created these people that have superpowers, and we love that. So we sort of boiled it down to the simplest comic book, scientific logic, and said, well, it's ooze. And it's got some weird mutation stuff in it. And years later, we ended up evolving the story to, it came from this alien race that was stranded on planet Earth and all that kind of stuff. But the first issue was simply just ooze. But the Daredevil tie-in is very specific in that Daredevil was one of my favorite characters growing up. I was a fan of, I guess, more grounded characters. I liked Captain America, Daredevil, Batman, things, the powers were, you could see your way to becoming those characters. And so when we were coming up with the Turtles' origin, I told Peter, I said, you remember in that scene in Daredevil where the truck's kind of barreling through New York City and young Matt Murdock jumps out and saves a blind man crossing the street from getting hit by the truck? The truck slams on its brakes. This canister comes loose of the truck, hits young Matt Murdock near the eyes, and then he becomes Daredevil, but they never said what happened to the canister. And so in the Turtle story, it's pretty much exactly the same, but we had it, after it hits this young boy near the eyes, not Matt Murdock, a completely different kid.
Chat Durdock.
Exactly. It continued bouncing down the street, and this poor kid we named Chet later was standing precariously close to a sewer opening holding a glass terrarium with 4 turtles in it. Canister hits the terrarium, everything goes into the sewer, the thing breaks open, and it lands next to a rat. That was the origin. But we went one step further in that for Frank Miller's Daredevil run, he created this character named Stick, who is Daredevil's mentor, and that's where we evolved Splinter from, Stick, Splinter. And in Daredevil's characters, they had the hand, we have the foot. So
All
yeah.
these years, and I never saw Stick, Splinter. It changes everything.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So but again, nothing to do with Daredevil, Marvel, lawyers. So,
When I was watching the Netflix show, there was such a large part of me watching the pilot, and I was like, yo, there's turtles under that sewer right now. Like, you guys just gave us Netflix turtles.
totally.
Now, with the evolution of the family, I love the use of the Renaissance painters, especially because as a kid, I thought the Renaissance painters were named after the turtles, because I was just the right age to be like, these amazing artists all share names with these turtles I love, because childhood. What was the impetus to name them after beautiful painters?
It's a great. We love that. We for years we love getting letters from kids and parents, and that we've educated them on these Renaissance artists and brought some awareness to their artistic appreciation. But it was sincere in that. Okay, we said we've got these characters. We started building the origin. We started creating the different aspects of where they came from and all that. The most important thing, what do you call them? Because of the martial arts Asian influence, we thought maybe traditional Asian names seemed appropriate, but we said, we're talking about a ludicrous concept, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We got to come up with something funnier. Doug, Bob, Steve, still not quite there. But when I was in high school, I was a huge fan of art history in general, but art history specifically. In fact, class of 1980, Westbrook Go Blazers. Westbrook High in Maine, I did a mural to one of my heroes. One of my artistic heroes was Leonardo da Vinci. It's still at the high school I graduated from, my tribute to Leonardo. So I blurted out to Pete. I said, well, why don't we go really to the furthest extreme, and how about Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Raphael? And he just laughed, and that was our barometer. So it was like, this is funny. It made us laugh. So we stuck with that. And then we had probably about a week and a half, 2-week discussion about Donatello, because there was a sculptor I liked named Bernini, and so I kept saying we should call the fourth turtle Bernini, and Peter was like, no, I like the thing, name that ends in O, Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo. So we ended up going with Donatello, so probably it was the wisest choice. So.
I love that those names are so synonymous with the characters that when you hear, even sometimes Leonardo DiCaprio, there's a moment I think of a turtle, and then I come back, with Splinter and the family aspect, and this coming from such a place of jest and then heart, what was the moment where you're like, no, this is a family, and this is like an actual heartwarming story of what it's like to be ostracized? When did it turn from parody into grounded, heartfelt reality?
Well, that was what was important to us, because you think about so much of the Turtles really were inspired by the kind of comic books that we were reading growing up. I mean, we read the X-Men, we read Avengers, there was Fantastic Four, those kind of things, and you would have oftentimes these group of misfits that really couldn't find that was sort of unwanted other places. I'm trying to think of a better word for it, but they created this sort of hodgepodge family just by being together and supporting each other and having this like-mindedness about them, and they almost an adopted family. And so we thought that this really worked and created a heart, and so we really wanted to have this family dynamic. They might be infighting. They might not agree all the time. There might be lots of issues between them. But when the chips are down and you really need to support the ones you love, they always came together as a team to do the right thing and be this strong family. And that was the heart and soul. And so, we felt that by issue 5 or 6, we'd arrived at our final family group, which is the 4 turtles, Splinter, Casey, and April. April was the first human introduced to the turtles in issue 2, and she's kind of the surrogate sister. And then Casey's more like a goofball brother or a goofy cousin that they sort of, allowed to hang out and
tolerate. But he's cool.
But love him just the same. So. But yeah, that was really the heart of the story.
Now, for me, the heart of the turtles themselves is pizza. And I just found out moments ago. So I'm a Boston guy, a strong Boston bias. I love that city so much. But Papa Gino's is a very East Coast institution. What was bringing pizza into the Turtles? How did that become? Were you guys like eating pizza? You're like, these guys would love pizza.
Well, it was a natural teenage element, but also that was the job I had after high school. I worked in this small town. I grew up in this town, Westbrook, Maine, and I worked at a pizza place, and that's what I did. It was like, so I ate a lot of pizza. I liked a lot of pizza. I still like a lot of pizza. And so it just seemed like a natural teenagers. And then, so that really, it was one of those things we almost did it as like, somebody said, well, what do they eat? Duh, pizza. And it started kind of as one of those jokes, and it just sort of stuck. And it's funny.
When you can be a kid forever, pizza. And they are.
Yep. Yes.
Now, the movies in the 80s, early 90s are kind of the benchmark for me of like that tone when you can capture between action and kid film. How hands-on were you when those were getting developed?
Well, we were very lucky in that, Peter and I grew up both as huge fans of artists like Jack Kirby, who is, yes, exactly. Jack, along with Stan Lee and many other guys, created most of the Marvel Universe. Jack, I think, was even more integral to the creation of so many of those characters. And as those characters went on to other forms of entertainment and things like that, oftentimes artists and creators like Jack never participated in the royalties or the benefits of their creations. And so when Peter and I created the Turtles, we knew how incredibly fortunate we were that we self-published it, we own it, we were the writers, the editors, the bosses, the secretaries. We did every single thing, and we knew how lucky we were that we had full control of our characters. So when Hollywood approached us and wanted to explore the idea of, cartoons and toys and things like that, we said yes, but we said yes on our terms in that we wanted full control. We wanted complete say over every script, what they looked like. We didn't want them to do something stupid like make them come from an alien planet filled with turtles, right? Michael Bay, did you hear that? No,
he's with the Marvel lawyers somewhere.
He's over there with the Marvel lawyers, exactly. No, so we knew how lucky we were. So Peter and I were very hands-on. We worked with David Wise in the initial 5 episodes in the first couple seasons of Turtles. We worked with we either had a direct involvement with or approved every single script for 300 cartoon shows, all the original live-action movies. We were on set with the incredible Jim Henson and director Steve Barron, who brought that first movie to life, which was fantastic. And it was just such a mind-blowing experience that watching your goofy idea, that evolved out of one night of 2 goofball wannabe artists making a funny joke about Bruce Lee being a turtle. And then you're sitting on a movie set and watching these, like 100 people running around and these guys dressed in these incredibly beautifully designed rubber suits doing martial arts. And it was completely mind-blowing in every single aspect. And you can imagine something.
And Sam Rockwell as a thug. Little baby Sam Rockwell's in that movie, and it's always a delight.
I met him once, and I took, because he had, unfortunately, one of the worst lines in the movie. They were trying to put some homage to Pete and I or some acknowledgement. So they came up with this line that one of the writers said, when he was trying to tell where the Shredder's warehouse, he said it's the East Warehouse on Lairdman Island. Eastman, it was, and I said, poor Sam. He actually had to say that line and make it sound effectively. But no, he's what a great, he was such a great character in that movie.
Now, Shredder has evolved throughout the years as well. When did you decide that the opposite of a turtle was that character, and how do you like that its evolution has become so extreme? How's that been to watch your baby turn into so many different things?
Well, first you got to look at the origin of the Shredder, and some of you guys might know this, especially if you saw the Turtle Power movie, some of that. But Shredder came from doing dishes, and I mean that seriously. In that, when Peter and I had our studio, which was called Mirage Studios, it was a mirage because it was our living room. And Peter's wife was an amazing cook, so she'd cook dinner often, and then to try to pay her back in some small fashion, Pete and I would wash and dry the dishes. So one night, Pete was washing and I was drying, and you know those metal rectangular cheese graters, and I sort of slid my hand up inside to dry the inside, and it was this sort of held the handle there, and it's like you have these sharp little grating things on the thing. And I said, man, could you imagine a bad guy with one of these on his arm? He would like literally, he would shred your skin off. And Peter goes, that's it, the shredder. So the shredder literally came from doing dishes.
The opposite of pizza.
Opposite
it
of
all
pizza.
makes sense.
And so then, we even when he designed that costume, the first costume, it's like, how do you even walk around with that without cutting everybody and everything around you up? It's a sort of a funny thing, but
you don't.
It was a but
shredder.
But we love the shredder, and it was sort of we kept him out of the Turtle universe after issue 1. We didn't bring him back to around issue 10 or 11. We spent a long time because we didn't want to at the same time be one of those comics or shows that always had the same bad guy and everything, which we ended up being. But at the same time, we wanted the story to help us evolve for the return of the Shredder and all that stuff. But I love him, and I love that he's still part of the known Turtle universe even today.
Now, for me, I gotta ask maybe the most important question in pop culture: the Vanilla Ice rap. When did that get brought to your attention, and what was your first experience?
I love the macaroni cheese commercial. You guys see that? Vanilla Ice does this great macaroni cheese commercial. It's like, I think it came out last year or so, and he's stocking macaroni cheese, and it had turtle characters on it on the shelf in this grocery store. And the mom is with her son shopping, and she notices Vanilla Ice stacking the mac and cheese, and she starts doing "Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go," and his son's appalled and sort of covers his eyes and walks away. That was great. That was a really great
Amazing
moment.
that exists.
No, what's funny is I thought the soundtrack for the first Turtle movie was really wonderful. They had a lot of really great, talented people on it. When they evolved it to the second movie, they wanted to do a number of things, even changing the tone of the movie in a bit. They wanted to make it more like a live-action cartoon, so they really upped the silliness factor quite a bit and brought in guys like Vanilla Ice to do that song. So it's funny. It's more tolerable now looking back on it. But
It's specifically iconic for a little niche. Now, the new films, the more CGI heavy ones, I feel like they've captured the characters still, like the heart of the turtles are still there, even with all the variables. And I think that's a testament to how solid the characters are, that even all these other things change. Is there another way you want them to go when they make the next film? We're going to keep having turtles forever, but the next live-action film, is there a certain direction you'd like to see?
yeah, I really felt that even with the new films, I sold my rights on the Turtles probably 20 years ago, but they still bring me, and I do a lot of work on mainly the cartoon, the comic book series with IDW, which are coming up on issue 100, which is something insane that I can't thank all of you enough for that, of buying that series. It's been 8 years of the best ride ever, working with Tom Waltz and guys like that. Worked on the Nickelodeon series, consulted a lot with that, with Ciro Neely, and I thought that was really wonderful, the 2012 series. When they came to the movies, when they knew they were going to do a new live-action movie, they brought me in to consult and asked, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And they had kind of focused in on one of these comics, and it was sort of one of those what-if books that we did back in the old Mirage days. This artist, Michael Zulli, did the turtles very realistic. They were almost 6.5 feet tall and had noses and everything that everybody hated about the characters in the movie that it came out. But it was an interesting take on the characters. Luckily, the heart and soul was there, but I just felt that, I said, if you're relaunching after so many years, I think you should really go back to the movie that worked the best, which was the original Jim Henson 1990 movie. It's like the Turtles were believable, and for a brief moment in time, they actually went and talked to Brian Henson, Jim Henson's son. They were considering doing, rubber suits with CG enhancements and stuff like that, and it just sort of, and Hollywood does this sometimes, and God bless Kevin Feige and what he's done with the Marvel Universe, because sometimes Hollywood goes, well, we know we're going to get the hardcore Turtle fans anyway, and it's like, no, you're not. I said, we want the fans that aren't, we're trying to go for those fans that we know we want to add to the Turtle fan base. And I said, well, to do that, first thing you do, don't piss off my original fans. These guys have loved these characters most of their life. It's important to them, and you need to do it. You have to, keep that in mind. And they said, okay, you don't have any say or any approval anymore, so we have 6 foot tall bulletproof turtles that scenes didn't work. But I will say, out of those two movies, I love the fact that we finally got to see Bebop and Rocksteady on the big screen.
Yeah.
Uh,
Gary Anthony Williams was incredible. It was so cool to hear Gary as like those are fun.
They did a great job. Krang, things like that. But I feel like if they were going to do another movie, I'd really sort of, my personal, and I've told them I would go back towards, maybe the 2000 Turtles that were a little edgier. We call them the 2000 series, the Fox Kids series. But combine the first Turtle movie from 1990 with the sort of maybe the 2000 Turtles and come up with something that's more for all audiences, something that is like, you don't have to be bloody and edgy and overly violent to tell a good story. It's like, you can have action, adventure, heart, soul. There's so many great things you can do. So hopefully it's something with a bit of edge, a bit of humor, and a lot of heart and soul. So if it goes that way, that would make me very happy.
Yeah.
So.
I love that we, no matter what, have a new iteration of Turtles, and one of the craziest, I think, is Turtles and Batman. And I love that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Batman are teaming up. Like, that's a real-life sentence, you guys. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Batman. What was the process of that? Like, how much were you involved?
Well, that was it was such a weird thing in that, I mentioned Jack Kirby earlier, and Jack Kirby, one of my favorite books that Jack Kirby published, wrote and drew was a book called Commandy. And I love this book called Commandy because it was kind of based on a Planet of the Apes kind of concept. And last boy on Earth, animals ruled the universe, ruled planet Earth, and humans were slaves. And this one smart kid, Commandy, comes up and he's trying to change back what had happened. And so I had come up with years ago this story of, like, you imagine mutated turtles going to the world of Commandy that's ruled by animals. And so I pitched DC this idea of doing a Commandy Turtles crossover, and they go, nobody knows who Commandy is. Why don't you do something cool like Turtles Batman? And I was like, didn't think that was on the table. I
would have led with Batman.
I know, exactly. I was like, phew. I was like, figured that would be a no straight out of the box. But because I grew up as I still have drawings from when I was like 8, 9, 10 years old of Batman, and so luckily for us, the amazing James Tinian came in and came up with this concept of what he wanted to do with the first one. They brought in the incredible Freddie Williams, the artist on the series, and they came up with such an incredible story, and it worked so well because it was really something that could have failed as easily as it worked. Yeah. But you guys bought it, you liked it, and we've done 2, and actually the second issue for the third and final crossover just came out 2 weeks ago, and it's pretty fantastic. But what a joy and what a treat it's been. And now they've just released a movie, which is pretty incredible. I have not seen it. Have you guys seen the new Turtles Batman movie? You like it? You dig it? Awesome. It's okay. Hardcore critics right here.
I respect the honesty. But the comic is so much. It's really smart, and it's a really solid book. And I think it took a lot of people by surprise because when you see that medley, you're like, okay, it's a cash grab, and this wasn't. It was it's both sets of characters being represented authentically. So if you guys haven't checked it out, like, Batman is Batman and the Turtles are the Turtles.
Yeah, I was really thrilled that they kept it. I wasn't sure if they would have taken it more than make it more kid-friendly, not to, more softer, but it's got a nice edge to it. And actually, there's an artist here who's done some incredible turtle comic books, a guy named Andy Kuhn. I think he's over in that section over there, but Andy was one of the guys that did all the character designs for that movie, and so you should go see Andy's stuff. He's fantastic, and he did a great job designing the characters for that. So.
Yeah, it's not Adam West Batman. That was my concern when I first heard about it. Batman 66 and the Turtles. Now, in the other world of what you're creating, drawing blood sounds fascinating, and I love the idea that you can keep a lot of tonalities, but also branch out so it feels like a familiar world. What was the inspiration for drawing blood, and how'd that come to be?
Drawing Blood's a new series, and for any of you guys that helped support the Kickstarter 2 years ago, thank you so very much. It was really a treat and a joy to do this. It was an idea I started noodling on, and a lot of times I'll keep these sketchbooks and I'll start noodling around notes and ideas for concepts. And I always wanted to do this kind of a Spinal Tap. Remember that movie Spinal Tap, sort of the heavy metal parody? I always wanted to do a Spinal Tap-ish sort of take on the comic universe, but create a guy that had created these characters that was really fantastic. He had a lot of success, but then kind of lost it along the way. And so 10 years after he had this big success, he's trying to find his path back to his creativity. And there's an element, I like, have you seen the new show called Barry? You know Barry? I love Barry. So it's kind of like Spinal Tap meets Barry, set in the world of comics. And our lead character, a guy named Shane Bookman, created the radically rearranged Ronin ragdolls, which are these 3 samurai cats that grow up over a sushi restaurant, and they're named after famous Japanese animators like Otomo, Miyazaki, and Tezuka. So those are our fictional characters that he creates, and then so the journey sort of we run 2 parallels where Shane's experiences and gangsters and thugs and all these things we torment and do to him in the world of, all based in the world of comics and around these characters. So if you get a chance to check it out, you should read it. It's you find a lot of interesting humor in there, and it's a semi-autobiographical, but there's a lot of it that came from, I know a lot of friends over the years, Frank Miller's and Alan Moore's and people like that have told great stories late night at a hotel bar after a convention. So I sort of take anecdotes from them and sort of weave them into, so it's a fictional story. We see it's a completely fictional true story, but Drawing Blood, you should check it out.
So if you guys are hearing like con culture, it sounds like literally a manifestation from con culture.
Yes.
And I love that, like, heavy metal, which you're obviously heavily involved with, meets samurai cats. Like, this is a very in a wheelhouse that's like perfectly branded. Now, before I open this up to audience questions, because you guys are turtle diehards, and I want to give you that moment, I love that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has standed the test of time, and we're now living in a resurgence of, like, 80s and early 90s culture. And in my mind, Stranger Things is the closest we've gotten to that world coming back. So I want to see a Turtles Stranger Things team up. But if you could have the Turtles team up with anyone, who would it be?
Well, if I was going by recommendations from fans, it seems they want a Deadpool Turtles crossover for some reason. I don't know.
Bias,
It'd be
but
quite
yes.
funny. Also, we get a lot of, because people that do know the Daredevil tie-in, they go, wouldn't it be great to do a Turtles Daredevil? It's like, right, give them more reason to sue us, right? No, it would be, I guess it's a tough question because there's so many characters that I love and enjoy in the comic book universe. Growing up as a fan, I'm still, if you're one of those guys like me, I still go to the comic store every week and I have my pull list and I still read and I love it and enjoy it. But it's like, I feel like the Batman Turtles was the closest thing to right in the Turtles wheelhouse in the Turtles universe that it really fit together wonderfully as a story. So it's like
Robert Pattinson and the Turtles coming soon, guys. We're going to make it happen. All right, I'm going to toss this box around. There's actually a microphone inside it, which is just, we live in the future. So talk into the box, and it actually grabs the speakers. Who's got a first question? Oh, all right. Of course, in the middle, I'm going to toss this cube across. Was she just raising her hands excitedly, or did she have? Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So, what do you guys help her catch it? Anybody grab it? Oh, whoops! It's
not
soft.
an
It won't
athlete.
hurt you.
I like comics. I'm not an athlete. I apologize for your hat.
Hello. Do you like the old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or the new one better?
I'm still a fan of the I guess the original black and white comic books that Peter and I did will always be my favorite. Those are my that was the original inspiration. That was a dream. Yes, actually, let's give it up for Peter Laird. Seriously, without Peter, there'd be no Ninja Turtles. Those will have the biggest place in my heart. When we evolved to the first animated cartoon, it was fun because I was really not sure if we could make it work in that universe, writing something for a much younger audience, considering the comic books were intended originally for a much older audience. But I guess I'd say that first Turtle movie was the perfect Turtle universe, and that it was a perfect blend of the black and white comic books with the animated series. So I say definitely the old, and I think definitely the first Turtle movie was my favorite of all the Turtle universes. So yes.
How many series?
Where's the question?
Yeah, just toss it.
Yeah.
Whoever catches it.
It's not dangerous.
No, it won't hurt you much. Little spikes come out if you don't ask a good question, though.
Shredder box.
Test 1, 2.
Okay, yeah.
Crazy, right?
Dude!
What made you create Keith Jones?
Great question. Casey was came about for two reasons. One that was done in '85, and it was around the time that we were, issue 1, 2, 3. We were heading into issue 4, and we felt like two things. One, it gotten really popular in comic books. They were doing these 4-issue micro-series, so they could do a shorter adventure on a particular comic book character, Captain America, Daredevil, whatever. And we said, well, that's a great idea. What if we did a 4-issue mini-series, but each one featuring an individual turtle so you could get to know their individual personalities a little better? Because you got to remember that Pete and I were still figuring that stuff out then. They were still pretty new. We hadn't completely defined the characters. So, and I had this idea that, it just seemed like every comic book vigilante had like this really horrific backstory. There was devastation, whether his family was brutalized or people were murdered, and his whole city was blown up. So he took on put on a costume and went out and fought crime. And I just wanted Casey to do good things, but he was influenced by watching too much bad TV. And this was inspired because I used to tease Pete a lot. His favorite shows were T.J. Hooker. Remember T.J. Hooker, William Shatner? The A-Team. And he just loved I Pity the Fool. He loved these series, and I'd be like, oh, dude, you're killing me. So I had Casey evolve from, he was watching 3 TVs at a time, so he's always watching all this TV, and that made him decide to be a vigilante. And so being more streetwise as a character, he had a hockey mask. He was a hockey player, and a baseball bat. What I had him originally just a hockey mask and a baseball bat, and Pete came up with the idea. He said, why don't you give him a golf bag, and you can put all kinds of different weapons, like a cricket bat, a hockey stick, golf clubs, and things. And so that sort of coupled with this idea. He said, well, I wanted to have him relate to Raphael, because maybe Casey's got a few anger management issues he needs to sort out, and so does Raphael. So I figured that if Raphael met somebody that was a bit crazier than him, that he might look inward a little bit, maybe sort of. And so that was the evolution of that. So Casey evolved, and we fell in love with him so much. And that was in '85 when we did that. We didn't bring him back until issue 10. I wanted him back on the story. We had to wait for the right time to bring him back in. And actually, when the Shredder returned and they attacked the second time around shop with April, and we brought Casey back to save the day and take him out in the thing. That was like, and so luckily Casey's been part of the Turtle family ever since. And
I'm going to interrupt the fan questions because I remembered one I've wondered for years. All the different turtles have different weapons that are very specific to their sensibilities, but I didn't realize until the video game. Do you guys remember the Turtles video games? I think it was like Sega Genesis was the one I loved most. But the way they fight is a part of their weaponry, and it allows them to fight like a family as well. When you were designing each of them having a different weapon, was it with tactics in mind? Like, did you consult with martial artists and shape it from there?
It was a combination of both, because it was sort of like we felt that in part, like the weapons, we also wanted to almost be part of their personality in a little bit, as well as tactical. Yeah. So like, if you ever try to use nunchucks, for example, I think it's a really silly weapon. It's like, I've never not used them and not hit myself in the head. It just seems like something, how do you make this? So it seemed really silly, so that seemed natural for Michelangelo to use a weapon that's kind of silly really well. Raphael sort of was our Wolverine-esque character, so he was and size are made for close infighting with close contact fighting. Raphael suited his sort of temperament, his anger management issues. For Leonardo, with the katana, the sword was even. This correlates to thinking, even with the cartoon, Leonardo had the blue, Raphael had the red, Michelangelo the silly, so orange is kind of a silly color. And so with Leonardo, it's the katana is more the weapon of a samurai, and it's more of a royal kind of thing. So blue plus the katana was sort of more of a leader type weapon. And then with Donatello, he's kind of our tech guy, and it seems more of a pacifist-like character. In purple, as well as the bow staff, was more of a monk-style weapon. So that was him. But the staff was also the best one to use in the video game, because you could really punch people from afar.
Distance weapon. I remember
But you put them all together as tacticians, it works out really good. They can help fight each other and support each other.
And that it always tied back into the family for me. I love that, like, the personality reflects everything down to the weapon, down to the cover, and it just like if more team movies could find that level of detail, would be better off. Not pointing any fingers. Avengers are doing fine, but other teams, perhaps those details count. Next fan question. That was the right choice. I shouldn't have thrown it.
Thank you. Hi, Kevin.
Hello.
Back when I was a kiddo, the local 7-Eleven used to get all my paper out money, and it's at least in part your fault. So
What was it?
The local, there was the game system there.
Yeah.
They get all my paper out money. But when I got home, they had the Nintendo game.
Yes.
And that was probably the hardest grind fest ever to get through that game.
It was brutal.
We absolutely. I just wanted to know what sort of involvement you had in all of that.
Our involvement, what he was asking was, what was our involvement in the original Nintendo game? And if you guys remember it, Peter and I were like, probably any of you others, we couldn't get through. I never got through it. I tried like crazy to the point of like anger. But our involvement was just more than what the character should look like, and there was not really any storyline. But I remember when the game first came out, and Pete and I would go to a comic convention, like a lot of fans would come up and they'd be very angry with us because like, why did you make this game so hard? It's like, we didn't. But yeah, I never got through the water level. It killed me. And then, back in those days, it was every time you started it, you had to start at the beginning again. You couldn't save a game and continue. You had to go all the way back to the beginning and go all the way through. So it was really hard. Yeah.
Anyone under 20 in this room, there was a time you couldn't save games.
Yes.
It was literally restarting every time. The idea that we've gone from like you can't save a game to you can play around the world with millions of people in like 10 years, like we don't appreciate that enough.
No.
It was a series of pixels that you just went, here we go, and you pretended looked like the characters as much as it did. Any other fan question? Oop. Do you want to? And then you bring it to her after? Because I'm not going to toss this again. I've learned a valuable lesson.
Jimmy will get sued.
Since you were a big Bruce Lee fan, and of course you did, martial arts here,
Yeah.
did you ever train yourself, or no, just a fan of martial arts?
I did actually. It's funny because in the early days when the Turtles were becoming popular, we'd do interviews and stuff, and people would be like, martial arts, the characters live in New York City, so you live in New York and you're black belts, obviously. And we were like, I think I at that time, I had not been to New York City ever yet, and my black belt training consisted of watching every Bruce Lee movie 100 times and the David Carradine Kung Fu TV show, and so it was even like, in a lot of the original choreography for figuring out some of those fights, it was just sort of guessing, trying to figure out how to make it all work, and from watching TV shows. But years later, I did study and found it quite fascinating, and because you really don't understand the culture fully till you actually start training, and I did Aikido, Kempo, Savat, Kali, some Jiu-Jitsu, but then I didn't do Jiu-Jitsu because I was always afraid I'd hurt my hand, and I ended up settling on Savat, but I tried a lot of different ones. I did Muay Thai, and it almost killed me. That's really tough. But that was I was probably 50 pounds ago. So, so now I'm back to where I started, but now I just watch martial arts on TV. So,
Contrary to the Turtles, ninjas and pizza do not go together as well as you'd think.
but I should get back to the gym.
Oh, now I want to see Conor McGregor versus Leonardo. Now I've got goals. I think it was up front, yeah.
She's got a hurt arm. So. She's
Thank
probably
you
got
for
that
bringing
from
that safely.
She got that from martial arts. She's a black belt, so watch out.
No,
So.
she was at my Friday panel when I threw it the first time. So
I actually broke it during jiu-jitsu.
Did you?
Yeah.
I was wondering. It's like, oh.
But what are your thoughts on the new show, the new Nickelodeon show?
The Rise of the Turtles?
Mm-hmm.
It's it's interesting because I fell in love so much with the 2012 series. It ran from 2012 to 2017, and Cyril Neely was the head creative executive producer of that. And Cyril was, Cyril grew up in Philadelphia. His dad owned a pizza place, and he was at the age when the Turtles first came out. He ate pizza every day, drew turtles every day, and he knew everything about the Turtle universe. He knew more about the Turtle universe than I did. And so when he started the 2012 series, I thought he just did such a wonderful job at not only bringing the heart and soul and all the aspects, and I loved ideas like making April more their age, and she had the 5 on her shirt, so she was officially the 5th Ninja Turtle and that kind of stuff. There was so many wonderful things. There was also some really messed up stuff in that series, which I really liked. Like I did the voice of Ice Cream Kitty, but his origin is brutal. I was like, dude, are you kidding me? Watching this cat transform into it's kind of scary, but I love Ice Cream Kitty. So when that series, brought that to a close, they really wanted to go back to sort of the younger version of the Turtles, which was more like the original 1988 series. They want to make something lighter, more colorful, more, I guess, geared for a younger audience again. And one of the places that had not been really explored that much was this sort of mystic sort of underworld, which was very much inspired by, say, Big Trouble in Little China, things like that, which is one of my favorite movies. So it's having a little trouble finding an audience right now, because I think a lot of the, and Nickelodeon knows they were taking a big risk, because there's a lot of us that, we love our Turtles and we watch the series, and it's like, even if it's a little bit of a struggle with some of the new ones, it's harder to get into it. But it's I've seen all the story, a lot of the stories, and I think there's some really great stuff in it. But it's sort of like, I like different,
It's iffy.
You agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little iffy.
Yeah.
Hit and miss. We got 5 minutes left. Any other questions from you guys? The aptly dressed gentleman. Can we get that to him? Oh, we got Vader first, and we'll get right to you.
Yeah, Vader.
I got a question for you. What did you think of Donatello when he, in the 2003 version of season 4, when he became a monster? What did you think of that?
Well, it's an interesting thing, because when you approach the different episodes and the different things you're doing to tell a dramatic story, and even like, for example, it's like you want to try to create something that's a bit new, something that's a bit fresh, and if you sort of become, like we all become vested in our characters, and we want them, and you sort of follow them, and you never want anything bad to happen to them or anything to get too out of hand, but at the same time you have writers and people that want to make things a bit more dramatic and exciting, is really to tell a story that can be engrossing, that keeps you tuned in and wanting to see how the whole thing plays out. So that was an experiment like that. Like even, I refer to in the IDW comic series we've been working on, in issue 44, we had this instance where we have Rocksteady and Bebop, beat Donatello pretty severely, and this was sort of like a great emotional moment, because we want to tie into this aspect that Donatello created this character called Metalhead, and we'd established that you can put a human mind inside a body, like we did inside a brain, like we did with the Future Toy. So we wanted to tell this dramatic story where, while Donatello was repairing, he was inside Metalhead. We thought it was like, wow, this is a great story idea. It's kind of dramatic and stuff. But people immediately thought we killed Donatello. And we're like, dude, we'd never kill Donatello. So a lot of people were coming up at the convention. They were like, why, Donnie? Why'd you kill him? Like, we'd never kill him. But it was more for dramatic effect and try to tell a good story. But it was sort of like, that's one of those moments. We did it. We tried it. And we sort of, safely brought him back to where he should be as part of the family. So.
But did you like it where he actually became that big hulking monster?
Well, it's kind of like, I liked it in that when Peter and I created the character Slash in the original series, that we wanted to go this route of, we have our regular turtles, which are more of your painter-style turtles, smaller turtles. We wanted to see if you had a snapping turtle or a large, ferocious character, what would that be like, and what would that look like? Even went back to the Secret of the Ooze movie when we had Toker and Razor. So it was sort of, again, an inspiration and sort of a similar parallel storyline. But it was fun, but I'm glad,
Hey, I got a crossover for
Served
you.
its time.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat versus Ninja Turtles.
There you go. That would be awesome.
I'd play.
Mortal Kombat!
He's ready.
Let's get ready to rumble!
I would play and watch that. Yes.
I would actually love to see Donatello try to take on maybe Scorpion or Sub-Zero. Get over here!
In a second.
You never know. You be careful what you wish for. No.
Could we get the cube of the gentleman in the red?
Yeah, gentleman in the red had one. Yeah, we got, I think, 2.5 minutes left, and then, like you mentioned earlier, we're going to be back over signing from 1 to 3, and then a short break, and then 4 to 6. So we're going to spend the whole afternoon with you guys. So if we didn't stop by and see you, you guys didn't stop by and see me yesterday, make sure you come and hang out today. It'd be fun. So.
Oh wow! So thank you for bringing the turtles and making them viable again. I love them. I love the ninja aspect to them. I love the way it inspired the next generation. And
thank you.
What do you think? Should there be a new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the year 2020?
Well, that's a great question. And I sort of flip it back on you guys, the fans, especially because, you think about, I always when I start an event or I do a panel or I come and hang out with you all, the first thing I usually do, such I would do my slideshow, and this is a great format, but I always say, I have the greatest job in the universe because I have the greatest fans in the universe. I literally could not be, I am serious. I could not be up here on this stage or sitting at that table or making a living, living my childhood fantasy, my dream of writing and drawing comics every day without you guys. The fact that that first black and white comic worked in the first place is your fault. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The fact that the cartoon series worked, that's also your fault, and thank you dearly and from the bottom of my heart. So every version of the Turtles that's evolved, it's really, it's surprising to me, and it's humbling, and it's such an amazing thing that you think, 35 years after Pete and I self-published the first comic book, we had, it was 35 years ago this month, this past May, that we, through Nickelodeon, and I think we brought a new version of the Turtles out, and it's totally up to the kids, the new fans, and a lot of the old fans, whether they liked it or not. And that was what was so crazy, is that I always say that, much like I was when I was a kid, you can't tell a kid what's cool and what's not cool. They decide. You decide. And so the fact that the kids found this new version of the Turtles something that was appealing to them and sort of made it almost as successful as the original series, it was like mind-blowing. So if you guys want to keep seeing Turtles and you keep supporting me the way you have, I'll do the best I can to bring you some great stories, some great ideas, and appreciate it. Thank you.
So let's give it up for another 35 years of Turtles.
Yay!
The next wave's coming. Let's give it up for Kevin Eastman. He's going to be
guys.
signing right after this at his booth, so head on over. More questions and go see him. Thank you so much, man.
Really fun. Awesome. Thank you very much.